hear from. Your past is a gift. Okay, so in this video, I wanted to talk about an experience I had when I was growing up. Now, in a previous video, I did discuss this experience, but not what happened after. And today I really wanted to delve into this topic because for many of us, we don't realize that we've created something in our lives to protect us. So this is what happened, and then I'll explain all of this later, will make sense. So what happened was we were signed up to play at this Stedford in the city. And I had my piece all prepared, piano piece. We were going to go play at this competition. And when I got there, I realized that my rhythm was all wrong. Okay, I'd been learning it for over 6 months and the rhythm was all wrong. And it's not something that you can just fix on the spot. Okay, so I'd already discussed the whole experience in a previous video. This video is not really about that. It's about what happened after. And it's in my book. It's in Your Past is a Gift. But I haven't talked about it here. So what happened is shortly after this event, to me it was quite traumatic because at the time I would have been 12, 13. It was my first few years of high school. And, to be up there and to be the only one that played it wrong out of 30 kids, or however many, 30, 32, whatever the number was. And I was the only one that played it wrong. That was crushing to me. I lost trust in so many things that day because I thought, well, my teacher was guiding me for over 6 months and we prepared it, and to get here and it's all wrong, I just lost my confidence in myself, And so after that, what happened was I started to have problems with my tendons and my hands. I started to get tingling and numbness in my hands and in my tendons. And then they started to ache. They started to get really sore to the point where I couldn't write. And, I couldn't hold a cup of water to drink. I kept dropping things out of my hands. And, talking to doctors, here in Australia with my parents, they were all suggesting an operation at the time, but without a guarantee that this operation would heal, the problem that I had. So I was sent overseas to have a treatment, and eventually my parents moved overseas with me and we all stayed over there, for many years. But originally I went there because there was a doctor, he was a sports doctor, and he said that he could heal me without having to cut me open and do any of that. So I went and he did his treatment. And a year later, a whole year had passed since he started his treatment, and we're all sitting in his office, and he says to my parents that unfortunately he can't do any more for me because the problem was not a physical problem, the problem was in my head. And I remember thinking at the time, because by this time I was about 15, and I thought to myself, is he crazy? Did he just say I made this whole thing up? Is he blaming me because he can't fix me? All these things were going on in my head, and I was so angry because after a whole year of feeling like a guinea pig, and having all these tests done and all these needles and injections and, it was like, you can't fix me? And now you're saying it's my fault? I just remember thinking all these things were going through my head as a teenager. I'm like, are you crazy? And my parents have given you so much money for this treatment, Anyway, that was it at the time. I stopped playing piano and I stopped doing many things, and eventually the hands healed on their own. The pain went away, and it took a long time before I could trust and start playing again, just for me. My parents eventually got me another piano and they just left it there so that I could play whenever I wanted to, and eventually I started lessons. Many years later I started again with lessons and all that, but it took a long time to get my confidence back, to get on there. And it took an even longer time. I'm talking decades, at least 20 to 30 years, for me to realize what that doctor had said to my parents that day. The whole problem that I had with my hands was fabricated in my head. It's all started up here. I felt so humiliated that day at that competition. I felt so crushed that I was the only one that did it wrong. And being so young, everything is magnified, everything's amplified. So I just felt like I can't go through that again. I never ever want to go through that again. And so my mind created this problem in my hands, this problem in my tendons, the tension that I went through the months after, you know, that the strain, the stress, the tension, all of that created the pain so that I'd never have to go through that ever again. Because to me, at that time, being that age, that was the most awful thing I'd ever been through, ever in my life. To be up there in front of all these people and to be the only one that was wrong was horrible. It was just horrible. So it took me a whole lifetime to understand that, yes, I had created all this in my head, and that's why my hands, with time, healed on their own, because up to this day I still play piano and I've never had that pain ever again. It never came back. But at the time I couldn't even brush my hair. That's how painful it was. I couldn't hold a brush just to brush my hair. It would fall out of my hand. The pain was so intense in my hands and in my tendons at the time. I couldn't stand it. So why I've shared this experience today is for all of you out there that are struggling with physical pain. I want you to think about that. Have you spent months and years with tension, with stress, with a tightness in a certain area of your body, and now that area is suffering? Because it could be all from up here, from something you've been through and something that you don't want to go through again because it was too painful. It could be just from up here if you start to look at it. Really look at it for what it is. You're just trying to protect yourself from going through something again that was too painful for you, it's too traumatic. So today I want it to be that first day that you open your eyes and you look at that experience for what it really was. It's just an experience. It's not the end of the world. It was just an experience. All right, my darlings. Remember to click like and subscribe below so you don't miss any of the messages. And please share with me your experiences, that we may talk about them, that we can help others, because you may think you're the only one, and I can promise you that that's not true. You know, I'm sure there's been many others, hundreds of other kids out there just like me that have been through these traumatic experience of getting up and having to perform or having to do something in front of a whole crowd, and they've got it terribly wrong. Or they just couldn't do it. Some freeze and they can't even do it. You know, that's what happens sometimes. And that's embarrassing. That's humiliating. You've just been put on the spot in front of all these people and you can't move. You freeze. You know, there's so many different ways, you know, that we go through these moments and we think they're so humiliating, they're so embarrassing that we don't want to go through that again. And sometimes it could just be an event, something that's happened to you. It doesn't have to be that sort of experience, but something that's happened to you that you don't want to go through ever again. A pain that's been caused. And you're creating this to protect you from ever feeling that pain again. So really think about this today. Let it be the first day you take that step at really looking at that physical pain to see if you can heal it up here. All right, my darlings? Remember to click like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video, okay? Bye for now.